over now to David. If you'd like to open the session.
Certainly. Let's first of all share my screen so that you guys can see my slides. Go over there. From beginning. Okay, so hello everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining today, and thank you very much for the BCS for the kind invite. Like you said, unfortunately, I was meant to present this in person last year, but the dreaded lurgies caught up to me and my family, so had to postpone it until the new year. But you know, there's better late than never. But yeah, really appreciate everyone joining at 6:30 on a cold, miserable Tuesday evening when it's freezing outside. I think I'd much rather be indoors as well. So we're going to be discussing today how AI, artificial intelligence, can really help with ITAM processes. And on this, we're going to look at how it can influence ITAM both today, but also based on what the research and the way that artificial intelligence is going and the way ITAM is going, how it can help in the future as well. It's completely interactive. So please, like Marilyn said, use that chat box. I will stop after certain bits and see if there's any questions coming in, trying to make it as interactive as possible so it's not death by PowerPoint, but hopefully this PowerPoint isn't death anyway. So for those of you that aren't aware of who I am, so my name is David Foxon. I'm an ITAM consultant with over 15 years experience, which makes me feel really old now. I'm currently working on full-scale ITAM implementations. We do maturity assessment and processes, etc. And I have my own consultancy firm called Sam Bees Consulting, which I founded in 2018. Because what you do when you have a new child is, of course, leave the safety and security of full-time work and go into consulting and trying to build your own business. Seemed to make complete sense at the time, and fortunately it's played out quite well for me over the past years. Outside of work, I'm kind of keeping my voice a little hush because I have a 6-year-old son, and he is absolutely football mad, and I do a lot of coaching as well for his under 6s team as well. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. Let's look at the agenda for today. Then, like I mentioned, we've mainly got 2 topics really because they're both quite beefy, meaty topics, and that's AI and ITAM in the present and AI and ITAM in the future. And also hoping to reassure you that you do not have to lose your jobs. You don't have to be looking on Indeed, because AI is not going to be the death of ITAM, and it's not going to remove your responsibilities and your current career paths. We seem to go through a lovely cycle within our industry of the next big thing being the death of ITAM. You know, we've had it for the past 10 plus years where it was going to be software as a service is the death of ITAM. The cloud's going to be the death of ITAM. Subscription, like everything is just for some reason the death of ITAM. And I've already seen articles and stuff like that saying that artificial intelligence is also going to be the death of ITAM. Of course it is, but I assure you that that is not the case. And in fact, I'll prove that to you over the next 50 minutes or so. So if we look at the current day and what I'm personally seeing out there, both within clients and also through networking and understanding how people are actually using AI, one of the kind of easy, obvious ways that you can start using artificial intelligence with ITAM is through the use of ChatGPT. I'm sure everyone on the call has heard of ChatGPT. You've probably even had a go at using it yourself. I know I was kind of a late adopter to this. There was a time on LinkedIn when you used to see everyone asking it about ITAM, when you saw everyone trying to trip it up on how to implement ITAM, what IT asset management is, processes, etc. And some of the answers that were coming out from it, they didn't quite make a lot of sense to me. I mean, it was a good foundational level of information about ITAM, but you could tell it didn't have that authenticity of being human. Fast forward a year or so on since ChatGPT exploded and everyone started using it, and I find myself subscribed to ChatGPT version 4 and using it regularly, both in professional and personal life. It's a fantastic tool that is obviously constantly learning every single day about everything, the world, ITAM, technology, cooking, football, sports, you name it. ChatGPT is forever learning, and it continues to surprise me. To give you a bit of an example, a lot of clients, if I ask them to run a report on a particular instance or a particular technology and they're not sure about it, they go and ask ChatGPT to give it some of the coding. and it does it within like a matter of seconds. And then they've got the foundation for the code that previously would have taken them an awful long time to learn and generate and tweak and try and implement. And they've already got the foundations that 9 times out of 10 actually works. We'll have a look actually in later slides as to how you can use and leverage ChatGPT at the moment using the free version, if you're not as sad and as geeky as me and having the paid for version. We're also seeing some level of automated workflows in specific ITAM and ITSM tooling. A prime example of this would be in your service management tool, where you've developed workflows to automatically chase users who have got an asset that they haven't used for 30 plus days, or who have got licenses that they haven't used for a specific period of time as well. Now, I say that this is AI and ITAM because ultimately there's a lot of human interaction to get it off the ground at the moment. However, some of these tools has that machine learning AI element of it as it goes through, and it understands how the process works. It delivers the process, delivers you the reports, and delivers you, hopefully, optimization and savings. That's something, in fact, everything on the present day AI and ITAM is something that's okay. It's good, it's decent at the moment, but it's very exciting at what the potential capabilities of this are moving forward. I'm sure you guys see this every single day as well when you're using your ITAM technologies and even Microsoft Excel. There's still some levels of intelligence at the moment on how to optimize your existing software. Again, though, this is driven by humans at the moment. You've got teams that develop and build all of the licensing metrics for particular applications. They say what the parameters are. Then it uses your inventory data and your usage data to show you your compliance position and whether there's any potential savings or money that you need to actually pay because you're short on licenses. Again, it's being kicked off by humans. There's a whole process in the back end of it. We don't quite yet have that level of artificial intelligence where it's scanning contracts and telling you, black and white, this is what the license metric is, this is how you track it, and this is how you're compliant with that. But again, something to think about when we look at how that's going to help in the future. And finally, on the present day that we're seeing, this is a lot more in its infancy, but it's something that I keep seeing with organizations that are adopting hardware asset management element of ITAM. HAM had a huge explosion during the pandemic in 2020 and continues to have a lot of eyes focused on it and a lot more people buying into the benefits that it can have. And one of the ways that we're actually currently trying to leverage AI with ITAM and using different data sets and machine learning, and is looking at enhanced hardware lifecycle information. At the moment, the kind of standard stuff that we have is support dates, end of sale, end of life, warranty dates, extended warranty dates, etc. But I understand that in the future that's going to become even more advanced and give us as ITAM professionals so much more information where we can leverage the life cycle of our assets way, way better than we can at the moment, with so much more data and accurate data so that we can really manage our assets more effectively, which of course you can't do HAM without SAM, you can't do SAM without HAM. It all works, it all has a benefit for everyone else. There are still problems, though. There's no getting away from it at the moment. It's not the finished article by any shape or form. And I read an article somewhere that said that artificial intelligence is actually the top AI companies at the moment have only leveraged 2% of AI's capabilities. We, using things like ChatGPT and the general day-to-day consumer type AI things on the web, we can have AI video support, you can do chatbots, you can do ChatGPT type things, image creation, etc. They estimate that that's only 0.09% of AI's capabilities. So if you think that it's cool now, your mind's going to be blown in like 5-10 years time when AI is just encompassing everywhere. If we get to that point, there are a lot of ifs, buts, maybes, questions even outside of technology, outside of ITAM, outside of IT, that we need to validate and verify first. I don't know if you saw last year, but there was a lot of news in the UK in particular about how a lot of the world leaders, in particular the UK Prime Minister and the US President, were being told by the likes of Elon Musk and basically the founder, the gentleman that created artificial intelligence within the technology space, that we need to put some boundaries on this. We need to put some frameworks around it now, because it could end up getting quite dangerous. And hopefully we never see that in our lifetime, or ever. Hopefully we can control that now. But the power of AI is so huge that I genuinely think that moving forward in 5, 10 years time, ITAM is going to look completely different thanks to the help of artificial intelligence. Now, if you can look at me in the eye and tell me you've not gone onto ChatGPT and asked it to write you something ITAM related, I probably won't believe you, because I think every single person has done it so far. Even when I was doing research for this, I just messaged a couple of ITAM friends of mine saying, come on, be honest. Have you ever just had a go on ChatGPT and asked it to write you an ITAM policy or an ITAM process? And of course they have. We all have, just to see what it comes up with. So here's an example. I wanted to be as broad as I could. I wanted to give ChatGPT as much leverage as it wanted to have. I didn't want to be niche. I wanted it to be quite, a wide scope. So I simply asked it, please write an IT asset management policy, including hardware and software asset management for a global enterprise company. No other specifics, no headcount, nothing. That was literally as broad as it gets. This is what it comes out with. I was quite impressed with how far this has evolved to when I first started asking it many, many moons ago. And the reason I say that is it looks a lot more structured. When ChatGPT first started doing ITAM policies and people were, posting them all on LinkedIn, it didn't really have a really nice layout like it does now. This one's got your purpose, your scope, the policy statement, then it's broken it down into different categories of hardware and software. And obviously, if you scroll down, there'd be more information on the policy. It's a good starting point. I'm beyond the point now where I would argue with people that were generating these kind of policies and processes in saying that it's not good enough, it's not fit for purpose, ignore it, you're far better off writing your own. This is getting to a point where actually, if you have nothing implemented within your organization and you need something and you need it quickly, this can give you a really good foundation, and you can be far more specific about your organization to have a more tailored policy that it creates for you. So I've done a complete 360. I used to just completely dismiss this whenever people were talking about doing this before. What are you doing? You can't be doing that. That's not right, blah, blah, blah. But it's now got to the point, where I can't deny that it is actually quite good. There is some things to be aware of. This is not the finished product, obviously. It's a great starting point. It's a great template, just like you'd perhaps find on Google anyway. But you still need to go through and review it and make it relevant for your organization. We say that all the time. There's no such thing as a drag and drop process or a drag and drop ITAM policy. And it's the same with the AI kind of documentation that it pumps out. I must admit, I had someone recently who asked me to go through and review some of their documentation that someone else had done for them. And it was almost like a word for word ChatGPT policy. Like it was very close to this. And it gets to that point where it's a really useful tool to use. It gives you fantastic information, but you still need to tailor it to your organization. It still needs to have the human element of it, so that it meets your requirements. And also your company may have an internal process that actually goes through and looks at the policies. You may need to have a specific font size, specific words in there, references. There's some organizations, especially in the financial industry, where actually the writing the policy and getting that approved by your stakeholders is the easy bit. It's getting it implemented through all of the red tape with the right spacing, the right font, the right headers. That becomes the nightmare. And that's where you're going to absolutely have to take something like this and make it your own. But it's a fantastic starting point, great bit of foundation work. And if you genuinely, may not have the time to be able to develop something like this, it gives you, a good skeleton framework. Just lastly, on the ITAM policy that ChatGPT has generated here, I learned from one organization in particular that actually already had an ITAM policy in place, that they onboarded a new intern who had been with the organization. I think he said they'd been with the organization like 3 or 4 months or so. So it had a pretty crash course in ITAM. They already had a policy in place, that it was a pretty mature function, but they asked the intern to go out and to build what they thought a policy would look like. And they actually pointed them in a direction, said, look, you can use ChatGPT, you can use AI if you want, that foundation, but please make sure that you read it, you understand it, and then you go out and talk to our stakeholders to build a policy that is actually fit for purpose for us. Not sure whether it's a compliment to the intern or what ChatGPT said. I'm not sure which clauses actually went in, but they actually ended up updating their main ITAM policy through the work that both ChatGPT and that intern did. So it definitely has its values in there, but please be careful. So the other bit that you can do, and this is just an example, that you could do any kind of process that you want, is the process side of things. Again, at the moment, ChatGPT lays it out in this kind of format. It goes through each of the steps that you could then implement in a Visio flow or whatever your process diagramming tool is of choice. What is interesting with things like this is now there's also DALL-E. I haven't actually used this successfully yet because it can't quite do all of the links to the flows, and it can't quite do a decision tree and stuff like that just yet, but that might be user error on my part. But using things like DALL-E, you could use this information that you've written down to build a software request process, hardware request, whatever kind of process you want, and it will build that process for you in the visual form. You can create images, diagrams, whatever it may be, via text format. So again, if you're in a position within your ITAM function where you know what the process needs to be, you've got it written down in some way, shape, or form, you've had it approved, you've gone through your stakeholders, you know a lot about it, you're good, you're bulletproof. The only thing that you need to do now is actually design the flow. Things like DALL-E could be that tool that gets you over the line while you're allowing you to focus on more strategic things. Like I said, I personally haven't got this to work 100% just yet. But obviously, if things like this continue to grow, if AI continues to learn more, which it is every single day, surely it's not going to be far off where you can just take like a work instruction or something and put it into a tool like DALL-E and get some output of it that's relevant for you. I say that, of course, common theme here, common theme. Still need humans to review the process and review what AI is saying to make sure that it's fit for your organization, even if you have created the actual text and documentation that you're putting into it. You still need that human element to go through and review it. So just summarizing a little bit then on some other areas of interest that gets me personally really excited about the future for ITAM. See some really cool manually created then ongoing learning chatbots as part of self-service portals. I mentioned something about that in a later slide, but your organization may even be doing this in ITSM tools, but these are really cool. They take a lot of effort sometimes to get off the ground, but once they're up to ground and maturing and learning, these things save so much time. We've obviously mentioned about the suggested licensing right sizing. There's a lot of really cool tools now, especially in the SaaS space, that can go through and see that you've got E5 licenses assigned, but identifies that the user's using only the E3 benefits and suggests maybe you could downgrade, how much money that can save you, how much that can save on your next true up or true down. Suggested scenario mapping as well. I love scenario mappings within ITAM tools. What if I did this? What if I moved that server there? What if I virtualized this, to give us that kind of information so that we can make an informed decision? I love that. Again, remember, this may seem automated from our perspective, but a lot of work has gone in behind the scenes with the ITAM and the ITSM tool vendors to actually generate this process and to allow this to be happening for you guys, as in the customers. Shows compliance position based on what the licensing tool thinks the metric is against the usage. We mentioned this before about they've got teams in the back end that are going through, looking at these vendors, finding out what the licensing metric is, and then setting that in the tooling or licensing metrics if there are more than one. And again, the spoiler alert, this is something that I think could be really useful in the future with other AI technologies that are already out there, just not currently being used in the ITAM space. So we'll talk about that in a second. But this one I can really see a clear path on how we can improve this and improve this from our perspective as ITAM industry professionals, but also playing devil's advocate, sitting on the software vendors side of things as well, how the advanced technologies with AI that's already out there could potentially help them as well. And finally, obviously, we've already referred to the automated process flows, but these are things that are living, they're living in the tools. They actually I've seen some instances where people have generated workflows that actually are agile. They're moving around if something's not working properly or if it hits a blocker. And again, I love that. I think this may sound anti-ITAMist, but believe me, I'm the biggest ITAM fan of them all. But I think if we can almost use AI as another team member to outsource some of the administrative tasks that we currently do manually with some of these process workflows, then by all means. I mean, just to kind of give you an example, that so many organizations still don't have dedicated ITAM technologies. So the processes are still all are based around key stakeholders in the ITAM team and the likes of SCCM and inventory tools. I mean, I'm still doing mail merges to do software audits and hardware audits. It's just fact. Not everyone has the abundance of technology. I'm still doing mail merges. I'm still doing email audits, etc. To have automated process workflows, would be a dream, and it's something you guys may already have already. And if you do within your organization or your clients, I'm very jealous. I'm trying to get mine to that point, but money's tight at the moment. But if we could have automated process workflows that are constantly learning and constantly evolving, again, it just becomes yet another asset to ITAM. Common theme, want to make sure, validate you guys, make sure that that your jobs are not a risk. Still requires human intervention, creation, effort, and validation. Still need humans. But do we in the future? This is where it gets a little bit blurry on how much human interaction there may potentially be with the introduction of AI and related specifically to ITAM. So as I mentioned before, the industry experts and analysts within the artificial intelligence space are currently classifying the maturity of AI as narrow or weak. I mean, it looks pretty good to me right now, right? But we're seeing so little of it. They predicted that the top AI organizations are only using and seeing 2% of AI's actual capabilities. There's a lot of really cool technologies that are already out there that are already changing the game quite a bit. So Microsoft Copilot, I'm sure you've seen an awful lot of that. In fact, they had some news out today about reducing the minimums of people that can actually buy licenses and use this. But Microsoft Copilot looks like a really cool tool for ITAM moving forward. If you're not familiar with Copilot, it uses basically the Microsoft Office suite. One of the key benefits that I think would really benefit ITAM is it does a lot of documentation cleansing. So if you've got a 10-page document and you need a summary of X amount of words or just one page, it will do that for you. It will generate that for you. If you're having a Teams meeting with a huge number of stakeholders discussing the latest ITAM audit, for example, it will summarize all of the points mentioned via the user's voices. You don't have to write minutes. You don't have to do notes in text format. Copilot has the ability to do that for you. It'll also do things like arrange meetings for you, send out emails. It's just your own personal assistant by the sounds of it. And under speaking to people that that are in the know and that work directly with Microsoft or have previously worked there and have experience with Copilot, the future of this is is huge. Using things like Excel's the most used ITAM tool. We could use Copilot and Excel to do analysis for us so quickly, like so quickly. No more digging down in X lookups or V lookups, no more pivoting tables, no more any of that. Copilot has the ability in the future to do a lot of that analysis for us, which again, for those of us that live in Excel doing analysis, I'm sure you'd appreciate that. Obviously, we've mentioned a lot about ChatGPT, but that's constantly evolving as well. There's a lot of power behind that. It's just going to keep learning when you keep asking it to do ITAM policies, ITAM processes, dedicated SAM, FinOps, whatever the case may be. It's continually learning. It's continually giving you way better documentation and way better ITAM advice. And that will keep growing. And like I said, a lot of my clients now, when I speak to in particular their tech guys, they use this every single day. It's like bookmarked. It's one of the guys' homepages. They are using it religiously, and it kind of almost gets to the point now, and even in personal lives, where you're seeing news articles about students using ChatGPT to submit essays, to submit dissertations at university, and things like that. And they're able to get around that because they go in and they change a word here, a word there, a sentence here, a sentence there. And they can even ask ChatGPT to do the referencing for them. So the power of this tool is, I can't even get my head around it, but it's huge. And we need to make sure that we use that as a benefit for ITAM. Google obviously have their own equivalent, Google Bard. Must admit, I've not used this as much as ChatGPT because, to be honest, ChatGPT was first, and that was the one that everyone kind of jumped on board and started using. But I know a couple of people that use this as well, and it's very similar. You've got AI chatbots. We mainly use these a lot in our personal lives as well, but something that we can massively leverage in the ITAM space, and we'll talk about that in a second. And AI contract analysis. This is the bit that I can see being in the quite near future. So this isn't like weird and wacky cyber stuff. There are a number of tools out there. There's one leading one, I think, but there's a number of tools that are coming onto the market that are actually doing AI contract analysis. And what this basically means is you can plug in a large contractual legal document that's in legalish language that you don't understand. And these technologies will go through and it will find the key points and it will summarize it in, again, however many words or pages that you need it to do. So then naturally the question comes, if this is reviewing complicated legal documents at the moment, I don't know how good the outputs are, but I hear good things about one vendor in particular. Why can't we use that in ITAM? What's stopping us from leveraging these AI contract tools in the ITAM space and giving it a EULA, giving it some T's and C's from a licensing agreement, and getting it to summarize in English what our parameters are, what the license metric is, what we can do, what we can't do, etc. What if we could use these things to go through warranty information for hardware, for example, and just give us a really short, this is what is covered under warranty, this is what isn't covered under warranty, here's how you breach the warranty. Because at the moment, when we do cheat sheets for clients on hardware warranties in particular, there's nothing really that does that summary. Yeah, we can go to the vendor and ask them, but that takes weeks or however long it takes them to actually go through and do that for you. But if we could do that ourselves without having to read through the whole warranty, get the key bits of information out there, it'd be such a time saver, and it would also support another factor that I think ITAM's going into, which we'll mention, which is customer success, which is customer service and customer support, because ITAM has been in the past potentially being able to hide behind people like the service desk and technology teams. But I really feel like we're seeing ITAM moving into being more of an integral part of an organization and a user's journey with a particular company. ITAM provides the hardware, ITAM gets the software, ITAM may even manage your cloud instances, your VDIs, etc. So we need to focus more on how we can actually deliver that value out to our customers and our end users. And I think our key stakeholders from technology would love simplified documentation on our warranties and our licensing stuff. We can do that. It just takes a lot of time. So why not have AI help us do that? And finally, I mentioned about AI generated ITAM lifecycle management. So something else that we've been doing a lot of research in and leveraging at the moment is there are loads of tools out there which leverage performance for your specific hardware, your servers, even your virtual instances, clouds, laptops, whatever the case may be. What would be amazing in the future, and what I understand that some of these people are looking at, is being able to do that automatically without needing to go and pull reports from one tool, putting it into another, or providing analysis. So for example, you could have a user log a request for a new piece of hardware because they're saying that it keeps running slowly. Automatically, I'm seeing that integration with other technologies to say, well, hold on, the RAM, for example, on this is actually maxing out. It's hitting over 95% for so many hours over the past few weeks. That's probably the issue. But having that kind of insight and that kind of knowledge, along with the actual vendor end of life dates, your internal end of life dates, having the performance reviews that we currently have to manually go and try and get from other teams, would just really enhance how we're managing our physical IT assets. And this is something that AI, again, like the contract thing, I think this is a lot sooner in the future than some other bits. So let's have a quick look then at the ITAM controls and how these things can leverage, how we can leverage those in ITAM and use them moving forward, and why Yeah, I'm excited about the potential capabilities of AI and why you should be too, to be brutally honest. So first of all, I'm a massive fan of ITAM policies, ITAM processes. I love building them. I love creating them. I love implementing them. I think that that's something that is a benefit that the organization will have long after my engagement ends. It's something that they will be able to hang their hat on from an ITAM perspective. And it'll also be something that hopefully they can keep evolving and building. But when you're the first one in there, it's a great feeling when you finally get something over the line. These take a lot of time. They take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of networking with your key stakeholders. Now, whilst I really do enjoy the networking side of things and speaking to stakeholders, understanding what we need to put into an ITAM policy, the actual writing of it then in the format that that organization needs to get through its document management teams, that bit I'm okay with letting go of, to be brutally honest with you. That bit, if it's got to, the head, like I said, the header's got to be in this font at this size and in bold. The body of the text has to be in this font with this spacing. I can do without that bit. Do you know, I really can do without that bit. So that's where the likes of Microsoft's Copilot can come in, Document AI, ChatGPT, etc. You, in the future, you will be able to throw loads of different documents at something like Copilot, all these different Word documents, and say, build me a policy. Build me a policy in the same font, the same format as document A or whatever you're throwing into the pot. Now, this is something that I don't think, I'm not 100% sure. I don't believe this is available in Copilot yet, but looking at the roadmap, and I really urge you to have a look on YouTube and stuff like that at what the plans are for Copilot, because it really is really cool technology. But yeah, it will start learning your style of writing, your style of policy documentation, and it will be able to build these for you in a matter of seconds, like ChatGPT can now to some sort of standard. That's so exciting for me. And I think that's something that will really, again, just enable ITAM to take that next step. You can chuck all sorts of information out there and say, build me a policy exactly like this, and it will build one for you. And there's also some really cool learning that you can do on Copilot as well through the Microsoft Learning Path, which I highly recommend. But yeah, this is something that I'm really excited at. As much as I love building policies and processes, and I do, the actual writing of the policy bit is where I'm more than happy to let that go to AI, that's for sure. Process flows will be living documents. Now, this is kind of like, I sound like a broken record, but this is my go-to whenever I go into an organization and they want processes being created. They tell me all about their process approval process, ironically, and it seems so archaic to me now that even like 5 years ago, we were building a process flow, going to key stakeholders. Is this right? What do I need to change? This bit, that bit. No, that link doesn't go there, it goes down there, etc. You'd get that into a PDF format, send it off to be approved, and like weeks and weeks go by before a process is finally accepted and implemented. And that now just seems like it's probably already going to be outdated. It's processes should be living things anyway, which, to be brutally honest, is why I've kind of moved away from Visio when creating my processes. Of course, if someone wants them in Visio, I'm more than happy to do it. But I like using tools like Miro, for example, instead, because I can physically drag and drop things as things change. In the future, as we start to look at all of these AI technologies that are coming out and the ones that are already in place, process flows can learn and update themselves based on the success rates that they're seeing. So they really will be living things. It will be changing as often as you could tell it, I understand. This means that, again, ITAM is constantly evolving and moving forward. We're not getting stuck behind. We're not having to go through all of these PDF documents to understand how we send a hardware off for repairs, or what our internal audit process is, or what our software renewal process is. It's all living. It's always going through everything. Obviously, again, I feel like we'll still need human interaction to tell it where it's getting stuck or where it's not working properly. But on the whole, a lot of this flow will potentially be in the background that we won't have any kind of interaction, especially on the hardware side of things, where we potentially don't even need any kind of interaction. You think about procurement. In tools at the moment, you can set your stock threshold levels. Great. It sends an alert to you when you've hit your stock threshold and need to order more. Okay, fine. Some technologies will actually trigger that process to procurement to go and buy more. But again, a human still needs to come in and still needs to go through and order it. There are tools out there, procurement tools. They are very in their infancy from what I've seen. And again, videos on YouTube, because I've physically not been able to use this in a working environment, that are coming into place that will actually automate that whole thing. So a human would never have to touch it. As long as you've got a pot of money, a cost center code, whatever it may be, that whole flow when you hit your stock threshold minimums will automatically do the procurement, get the approvals, get the equipment shipped to you. For consumables, I think that would be amazing, because I forever bored of trying to ask people to count how many wireless keyboards, how many headsets, etc. Make sure you're updating the asset management database. Have you done it? No, there's one missing. Just, it's so mind numbing, and they're not even assets. Consumables aren't even assets. So if I can outsource that to AI, I absolutely will. And having these process flows that are living documents as living documents. If something goes wrong, they'll learn from it. That's almost the scary thing of where AI can get to, is it can learn better than a human could in the future. So it would know how to optimize this process far superior than we as humans would be able to. I also believe that compliance issues are going to end up being a thing of the past, and it'll be all about financial optimization. And maybe a focus on green software. Green software is something that's really coming out into the forefront as well at the moment. But when I say no more compliance issues, if we get to the point where we're using AI to review all of our contracts, tell us what the licensing models are, tell us how to use it, there's nothing to stop software vendors doing that as well. But on the flip side, so there's nothing to stop software vendors, say, using artificial intelligence to go out and look at its client base without any interaction from humans and identify any instances of non-compliance and kick off that process of, knock, 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 you're using more than you're consuming, we need to pay for us. But in the future, if they can see it and we can see it, and we've got some technologies that does all of the automated procurement side of things as well, who's to say that in the future software licensing is actually going to become something that's almost automatic? Software vendors, and I've spoken to a few, they're never in a million years going to tell you, look, use AI to say, oh, you could stop paying us hundreds of thousands of pounds if you did this, this, and this, because it's all about money. It's all about money. But if AI evolves and keeps evolving and generates all of these scenario mappings, all of these optimization opportunities for you internally, so that you know how you can save money. The software vendor knows what you're consuming. There's nothing to say that in the future we can't have that link. Whereas if you do go over, maybe licensing models change to become monthly instead of a 1-year commitment or a 3-year commitment. Maybe software vendors start bringing in flexi licenses so that you can say, well, we fluctuate, we're going to reduce by 5 licenses. Here's our, automatically, that we're not using that. That we're saving money there. I don't see why we wouldn't use it for software optimization, and also the software vendors using it. And I know they're looking at it, especially on the whole machine learning side of things, especially looking at consumption and as horrible as it sounds, but it's true, how they can extract more money from their customers, whether that's through migrating them to the cloud, whether that's through additional support contracts, additional licenses, etc. These multi-billion-dollar organizations are already using AI to leverage it for their benefits, but we can also do that from our standpoint. But yeah, from what I understand, from what I've been researching, that there is that potential to have that complete link where compliance just doesn't become an issue. They can see what we're using, we can see what we're using, we can optimize, they can optimize. There's no more headaches of having a software order to come in, because we've got the machine learning telling us now how we can actually go through and use that software. And finding something that is very selfish from my perspective, but something again that I think would be in the near future, and that's AI generated interactive work instructions containing video guides for all your processes. I do a lot of, when I build a process, it's not just the process flow, right? It's the work instruction, it's a racing matrix, it might even be a standard operating procedure as well. And with the next generation of professional coming through, I've found that videos work really, really well when implementing something new within ITAM. I'm talking about, this generation of people that have grown up watching the likes of YouTube and Netflix and having content on demand. I find that they're far more engaged if I create a video about what a particular process is or a particular action that ITAM's doing. There are already AI generated video creations and editing software out there. They're not great. I have tried them. They're really not that great at the moment, but there's nothing to stop that becoming really, really good in the future. And the way that I see this happening with the other AI technologies, I could use my work instruction that I've potentially also had it generated through AI, or my process that I've had generated through AI, and get it to create a video work instruction that goes through each step in video with a guide based on your environment, based on your portals, based on the process, etc. I think this is something that we really can work towards. I know some software vendors are already looking at doing this with some of their own materials, both internally and externally. And I don't see why that can't help take us as ITAM even to the next level. And again, goes back to that customer experience. If you're giving your stakeholders and your end users mountains and mountains and mountains of paperwork, just like you probably would if you received it from another team, you're going to switch off. If you received a really short 2-3 minute video guide explaining things to you, personally, I feel like your stakeholders and the next generation of working professional are going to be far more interested in watching a video than going through and reading loads of documentation about ITAM. So have a think about those ones. I definitely think that some of these are potentially things that you already could start looking into and implementing within your ITAM function, especially if you're a big Microsoft house and Copilot. That's coming, thick and fast. Everyone's talking about Copilot. People are using it. Microsoft are even going to have a Copilot button on their keyboards in the future, which for someone who also manages hardware, I can just already see the complaints that, my colleague's got the new laptop with the Copilot button and I don't. I can already see those kind of problems cropping up, but we'll deal with them at the time. But this is stuff that's already out there in its infancy, and you can go along that journey with it and use it in your day-to-day lives and really add extra value to your organization. We're also looking at how AI can also help ITAM from an intelligence point of view. And I use the word intelligence not as a sarcastic or derogatory way. It's more of a fact that we can actually be smarter in ITAM with the help of artificial intelligence. Contracts are one of the biggest hurdles that we have, especially when it comes to the complicated end user licensing agreements, software contracts, warranty agreements, etc. If we had an accurate, reliable source of AI that could just give us a one-page snapshot so that we knew how to use the software, I think that would really put us in a great position of power when it comes to ITAM. And also, as professionals, it may help us learn new licensing metrics and new software vendors a lot quicker than we currently are. That's something that I definitely think I would benefit from, having a short one page rather than having to read through end user licensing agreements for a software that I've never heard of to understand whether I can use it here, there, or everywhere. If it was just a succinct one pager, amazing and accurate as well. We've also got Kira. That's the name of the software. I knew I put it in here somewhere. So Kira or Kyra or however you say it, that's the software that's already being used in legal and healthcare organizations that are going through, looking at contracts, providing analysis, providing those one pages, providing it in English instead of English terms. And it does it in seconds. Again, if you've got time, have a look at this on YouTube. It's really impressive. Why can't we use that in ITAM? And we mentioned about the compliance area of things, but if we've already got the ability to track how we're using it, doing all the scenario mapping, why do we need to keep having this dance with software vendors all the time? If we know what we're using, we know what the future is going to be, and there's automated AI driven procurement as well, which is looking very exciting. Then we could just skip all of that admin. And again, you'll be right sizing correctly. You'll only be spending what you're using. And ultimately, as well, I can envisage that you'd potentially build up a better reputation with your software vendors and your account managers, because there's no hidden agendas then. You can both see what you're using, you both understand what the future is going to be. You've got AI feeding you all of this accurate information. I honestly feel like that would help build that relationship far better, because we both know when we go into a call with a software vendor at the moment, they want to get more money out of you. You want to pay less money. You're holding all of the keys to the kingdom because you know what you're using. They're holding what their roadmap is, and what their objectives are financially. It's a dance that's been going on for way too long now. From a hardware asset management perspective, we've already mentioned about the stock levels hitting their thresholds, but something else that I've seen as well is about agile stock management. So tracking those stock changes on a monthly basis and predicting peak months. At the moment, we're doing a lot of that manually for a lot of clients. So we find out that when people get back from holidays, suddenly they've lost their phone or they've lost their mouse, their headset's broken. So peak months are normally like September and October sort of time. And then we see another little peak in December when people are out for their Christmas parties and losing things. But that's something that we're currently managing through human interaction. But it'd be great to be able to outsource that to AI as well, which is something again that I think is not too far away. Looking at how people are currently manipulating, is potentially the wrong word, but they're massaging existing ITSM solutions to meet their needs. And these ITSM tools can see what you're doing, and it's always in a future release. So that's something that's potentially coming in the next few years. And hardware spec as well. Again, this is something that we're doing on a manual basis that we potentially don't have to. The tools are already there. There's so many tools out there that we currently leverage to say, if someone says that my machine's running slowly, that we can look at and go, it's not the hardware. We're not seeing any red flags here. Is it an operating system issue? Is this software not compatible with the latest update of an OS? Is the OS not compatible with the particular the software that's installed in it? Whatever it may be, we need that information. We need that education to make way more informed decisions. And we can actually use these tools to the next level to start looking at how we can be agile with our hardware specification based on the user's request history. Maybe they've been raising incidents, problems, whatever, with particular hardware or software, and also their previous usage of it, to get them a device that is actually fit for purpose, right for them, and the right price for us as well. And again, we're doing this manually at the moment. I don't know if you guys are, but I'm doing this manually at the moment using loads of other tools, pulling in loads of different data sources. But it's something that we can absolutely outsource to AI in the future. As you can see, AI is becoming part of the team already, becoming part of the family. We're outsourcing tasks for it already. We've even got a personal development plan for it. We know what we want to outsource to it in the future as well. We're also looking at the financial management side of things. Again, just feeding ITAM with more data. That's what we want. Data is king. We want more data. We want lots of it. We've mentioned it so many times about the right sizing type of thing, and that's something that's going to be hugely improved moving forward. As we start looking at using the contracts learning, the contract AI tools and stuff like that, then when it gets a really accurate, bespoke way in which you're licensed to use it, for example, against how you're actually using it, it'd be immense. It would be so good. And then obviously you could even have AI go out and action that. Automated cost savings, automated cost avoidances. Isn't ITAM amazing? You're not even physically going out and uninstalling stuff, yet you're saving money. And also we can look at automated and suggested renewal numbers as well. A lot of tools do this, but again, it needs humans. We can take that to the next level using AI. That's something I'm really excited about. Just leveraging ITAM even more, showing how much more valuable it is from a financial standpoint. Now, here's a scenario I want to paint to you, and this is something that I firmly believe is achievable, looking at the technologies and what the roadmaps and stuff are. So you've got an AI chatbot using your self-service portal. So it knows who the user is because of the account that's logged in, etc. So what we're seeing at the moment is this created manually, but it's starting to learn. AI is really starting to learn through these chatbots. So for AI says to Joe, how can I help you today, Joe? Joe wants software that can use to create and analyze data and present it in a dashboard format for senior management. AI then is going to know what your approved software is. At the moment, a lot of people are having to tell it what the approved software is and tell it if it's got spare licenses. But in the future, with all of the machine learning and looking at all of the top contracts and all the different portals, in the future, AI will be able to go back to you and say, our approved software for this is Power BI. It's looked for keywords. It's understood what the request is. It knows what the solution is. It also has access to view what the current license position is and that it's got spare licenses. Would you like to proceed? Absolutely, I would. And then AI can trigger that install process. This is something that I've actually seen in a prototype format where there's not been too much human interaction in the beginning of it. It's given accesses to all these different portals, etc. Of course, I need to say this can go wrong. It may assign the wrong license, for example. We're still really in the infancy of doing this, but there are, I know for a fact that let me start that again. I know for a fact that there are a lot of technology companies that are looking at this and looking to utilize this in the ITAM space for this exact reason, and in the ITSM space to speed up this mundane administrative task and having all of the approvals done in the background as well. Another option, a scenario, is about laptops. And if a user submits saying that the laptop's running slowly, AI can go and look at the AMDB, tell you the serial number, the host name, etc., look at its lifespan, looking at all the problems it may have had in the past, at the historical incidents and changes and requests. And also with the likes of Copilot, you can book appointments. It can go through diaries. It can look at an available engineer. It can look at the user's location, and it can book a relevant time to do that kind of handover. Now, as an end user, that customer experience is immense. You're not sending off loads of emails. You're not ringing the service desk. You're not taking all this time out of your day to get something that you need to do your job. Now, the way that this can learn as well is that if it's still within its life cycle, it will be able to flag that. It would then look at the performance issues. Okay, that seems to be okay. It will look at the software issues. Okay, that also seems to be okay, until obviously you are going to end up needing to actually see a human. And of course, Sarah now thinks that AI and ITAM are the best, because literally within a matter of minutes, she's gone from having a problem to having a solution. Immense customer service, elite customer service. So this is all going to change that ITAM landscape. I firmly believe that ITAM professionals, we're going to be far more focused on those strategic tasks and challenges. That admin job, the checking justification for this, looking at that, finding out whether we got spare licenses for this, assigning licenses over there. Firmly believe that we can hand that over to AI in the future. There'll also be a demand for ITAM, if it is still called ITAM in the future. Might be technology asset management. It could be, who knows what the terminology is going to be. To support the likes of ITAM and FinOps, we'll still need that human interaction. The skill set will change quite a bit. We may need to, learn and develop our own professional skills and what our view of ITAM is, just like we have done over the past 10 years. Things like FinOps have come into play, DevOps, etc. And if you're an evolving, moving with the times ITAM professional, you'll embrace this. You won't close it off and say, no, that's not ITAM, I'm not doing that. There'll be a lot of less focus on compliance, more focus on customer service, agility, and sustainability, and really providing that value add to the organization. And like I said, going through the scenario mapping, the examples, the hardware side of things, and that management, I feel like we'll just go to the next level with all of the analysis and all of the data that AI can provide, especially around the performance and especially looking at the history. And in the very, very distant future, there's actually something called super AI. Now, this is where it gets a bit scary. This is self-aware artificial intelligence with capabilities and capacities beyond humans. This can outperform any human's cognitive abilities. This is why Elon Musk is telling all the world leaders to be careful and put parameters in. Because at this point, when we reach this element of it, ITAM is going to be the least of our problems. AI is just going to have taken over the world, and there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it. But that just shows the power that this has. It's going to be able to learn, become self-aware without even needing us. So we need to make sure that we're leveraging the positives of this moving forward. Or is it? There's a lot of question marks at the moment about how much energy artificial intelligence actually uses, because it's still a server somewhere. It's still something somewhere that's consuming energy, that's storing data. That article there, that was on the BBC, that's brilliant about how the AI industry could use as much energy as the Netherlands, as a whole country. That's something that we need to be really aware of, especially when organizations have such a huge ethos on sustainability and green IT, because at the moment, the way it's going, AI, not so green. And finally, just to kind of recap then on how I think AI and ITAM can really kind of work together in the future. We've mentioned about the mundane tasks so we can be more strategic. License compliance definitely, I think, can be a thing of the past, or less intrusive on our day-to-day roles, less of a fear when a software vendor comes knocking at your door. Intelligent first-line chatbots. Even I, as an end user, if I had the option to use a chatbot that knew everything about me, knew what the approved standards were, that gave me a result a lot quicker, I'd certainly welcome it. Bespoke ITAM documentation that AI is generated, so you haven't been sitting there in Word writing it all out, making sure the font's the right size, the right spacing, the right headers, all of that mind-numbing stuff. And automated creation of process flows, races, work instructions that are living, that are evolving, that are looking at where they're going wrong, where they can improve, where it can be more efficient and more effective. And of course, until AI takes over and iRobot dooms us all. But before all that happens, there's some really good stuff coming. And I firmly believe that we as the ITAM world need to embrace all of this. So my final takeaways, and thank you so much for bearing with me. We are just hitting the hour, so I really appreciate everyone that's still here. So the key takeaways: AI can play a role in ITAM today. It absolutely can, but please be careful. It's not fully there yet. You can use the likes of ChatGPT with suggestions for ITAM documentation, but not the final product, not yet anyway. Still need to go through, modify it, and make it relevant for you. Organizations are looking at using these chatbots. Some people are already using them, that they've implemented themselves and are feeding it information. But in the future, I think this can go to a next level. We as an industry need to embrace artificial intelligence, just like we embrace DevOps, just like we embrace FinOps, just like, even back in the day, it was a real Sam and Ham divide. Now we're ITAM. We've embraced both hardware and software. We need to embrace AI and see how that we can leverage it and use it to our advantage. It's going to be in the future. It's definitely not the death of ITAM, and nothing. We've seen this so many times. I promise you that this one's not going to be the death either. It's going to take us to the next level. But we, as a collective, a human race, almost need to be mindful of the energy and the environmental impacts that artificial intelligence is actually causing. For all the benefits, there is still that negative, and it's quite a big one on how AI is actually damaging the planet, and that's even before we've got to that iRobot scenario. So thank you very much for listening to me ramble on for an hour about ITAM and AI. Hopefully you found it useful. Like I said, when doing the research for this, there's so many really cool YouTube videos out there that you should go and have a watch. There's a Copilot Microsoft Learning thing if you want to know more about Copilot and AI. And I genuinely am excited for the future of ITAM and how AI can help take it to the next level. And on that, BCS Marilyn, I shall hand it back to you.
I've got a few questions for you as well and a few comments to make.
Go for it.
Thank you very much for that, David. It was a really great presentation. The first question from Ben was early on, and I think we might have covered it, but I'm just going to go through it anyway. His comment is, interestingly, in any early view on optimization of LLM usage itself. He's interested in, and especially given the complexity and likely skills shortage, will it be the case that AI will be optimizing AI?
AI optimizing AI?
Yeah.
Wow. Just skill shortage. Actually, that's a really good point. How did I not mention that in the presentation? About how the fact we've got the whole skill shortage in ITAM and licensing anyway. But I mean, AI in the future, if we don't put the controls and parameters around it moving forward, then it's gonna start managing itself. It's gonna start managing the own process it's created. It's going to start managing its own compliance and optimization tactics that it's done, which again I think is why a lot of the people that are far smarter than me and know way more about it are a bit nervous about it, because there's no end as to what the capabilities of it are. So yeah, we need to we need to be mindful. But that's a really good point about the skill shortage. I think if you're missing out on resources within your ITAM team and you have something like AI at your disposal, maybe you don't need to put that. Maybe that can be the additional team member that you need. Next time I'll put that in there. Next time.
It's interesting that you say that, because I know that when we're at the conference and certainly the conversations that I'm having at work around this sort of stuff is that AI is not going to replace headcount. We're not going to be in a position where we're going to be able to use it. It is in its infancy still.
Yep.
It is needing to have a lot more training, and it is an assistant rather than
Yeah.
actually, and certainly when we're talking about co-pilots and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think you did sort of cover the optimization aspect from the point of view of saying, like, where you've got processes that can be kind of self
Yeah.
managing or self adjusting, self adapting kind of thing. That I kind of thought was like optimizing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, that's very cool. And the next one we have from Mark is also, do you foresee different AI tools gaining dominance in the business world? We're a Microsoft house and a pseudo local government authority. We are debating which horse to back.
Yeah, it's kind of what I said with ChatGPT. It's very similar to anything in technology, right? There's always one, two, three, potentially four different options for you. You look at like there was Blu-ray versus HD TV or whatever it was at the time. There was VHS and Betamax. There's always different options until one goes forward and really takes the lead. At the moment, obviously, things like ChatGPT, Kira from a contracts management side of things are the leading ones because ultimately they're one of the first ones that has gained. I hate to use the word, but ChatGPT, for example, went viral, right? That's how a lot of people learned about it. That's how a lot of people came to use it, etc. Like things like Google Bard haven't got to that point yet. They've not had anything that's made people go, "Wow, oh my God, this is amazing! Look what I asked it to do." So it's really hard to say which horse to back. I don't know. I mean, I'm happy to try out as many as I can to see which one works best for me, both personally and in a professional standpoint. But things like Kira from a contracts management side of things, that seems to be the one that's head and shoulders above in the healthcare and the legal space at the moment. That seems to be immense. And obviously things like ChatGPT and Google Bard are the leaders in the if you want to do prompt based. And there's also DALL-E as well, which I forgot to mention, which can also generate process diagrams for you using text prompts. Like I said, I've not seen it done properly yet, but that's part of the ChatGPT family. So maybe the OpenAI people are really kind of leading the race. But at the moment, just try out as many as you can. Get your developers to see which one gives you the best coding framework. For example, you in an ITAM space or contract management, see which one gives you the most accurate and valuable answer. Just play with them all at the moment and let those way more intelligent than us decide on which ones are the best ones.
Mark's liking that answer. Um,
But Copilot
interesting.
is really cool, Mark. If you're a Microsoft house, that looks really good.
Well, we're actually a Microsoft house as well, and we are in process of doing some proof of concepts on the co-pilots. But I mean, I think you only covered one co-pilot, which was the M365 co-pilot,
Yep,
and
yep.
yeah, we've got a co-pilot for GPT, sorry, GitHub that's on trial currently or commencing trial shortly. We've also got Dynamics Sales, the CRM tool,
Yes, yes,
got a
that looks
co-pilot.
good.
That
Yeah.
one's already live. Yeah, and so there's a security co-pilot also that's coming out from Microsoft as well. Um,
So, Mark, if you're already a Microsoft house, maybe that is a good horse to back.
yeah, well, it depends. Like, I mean, you've got to do the proof of concept. You've got to have use cases to test whether or not it's going to work for your
Yeah,
organization.
of
You've also got to
course.
test whether this tech actually works. Because I mean, that's the point that we're at as well, like checking that the tech actually does work. I mean, it does look great. The demos look really good. I've seen the M365 Office demos where,
Yeah.
uh,
They sell you the world. They make
yeah.
it look unbelievable, don't they? Yep.
Yeah, they do look great, and I keep telling our organization, like, you need to think of it as an assistant, that it can help you do your work faster rather than augment your team with an additional headcount type thing. It might help you pull together, if you want to put together a PowerPoint presentation, you can populate it like immediately with some
Yeah.
content that it finds itself, from your databases and your internal tools if you've got it like set up internally, and then that could be a starting point for where you start editing
Exactly.
from. So it might make it easy for you to get off the ground, like that initial part of like, how the hell do I put this presentation
Exactly.
together.
Yeah. It gives you that bump, but you need to carry
Yeah.
on and build it out and format it into a way that's relevant for you and your organization. Yes, an assistant rather than a
Yeah.
people replacer.
And equally, something else from my perspective, I wouldn't want the models creating a document from internal data that it got access to if I was doing an executive briefing note for someone, for example, because if it's just pulling in information from a whole lot of places, that might not be the appropriate information. So again, you need human to come in and do an assessment on what's the appropriate level of information, or what is the appropriate content that you want to share as part of the output. So it's never going to be able to replace people.
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. I think if you even look outside of ITAM and stuff like, yeah, people's end of year, assessments and all that kind of stuff, the human side of thing massively needs to take the forefront of that, because you could get data from here, there, and everywhere. That doesn't tell you the full story. There's a really good book, actually. I think it's called The Alignment Problem. I did have it on my desk over there, but it was about how things like Google, Microsoft, even OpenAI, etc. Like, there was a lot of things that went wrong with AI at the beginning because it doesn't have that consciousness. It doesn't have that human emotion, if you like, that takes into a fact, not just fact, but also, the actual what the person's going through. And I think one of the examples was like an end of year review where it was looking at all this data and it looked like the person performed horrendously, but it didn't actually take into a fact that the person was part-time. Like silly little things like that. You definitely need human interaction to kind of play its part still. And yeah, it's an enabler, it's an assister, but it's not a replacer.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a good tagline.
We
There you
got
go.
another comment in here from Jill, and she said, "I'm one of those rare creatures that had not used ChatGPT, or had not used GPT. So multitasking, have just asked it to write a list of questions to ascertain license management health. Very useful. So thank you. So you encourage
Nice.
us to start to use it.
Nice.
Well done.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Maybe you
really
should
good
buy some
talk.
shares.
Yeah. Thank you very much
No,
for
thank you for the
your
invite. Thank
presentation.
you.